What if I told you, in Iran, women are banned from going to soccer games?
Mom, take the ball. I love you.
For 43 years, Iranian women have fought back.
Police pushed us.
Troops.
This is their story.
The joy was forbidden.
What is the meaning of that?
That is how they control you.
I'm Shimol Yai. Listen to the new 30 for 30 podcast, Pink Card. Available now.
Hey there, it's me, Ricky Lake from Raised by Ricky. This holiday season, we are bringing you a very special gift, the gift of all our episodes so far. That's right. Now is your chance to catch up on all of my interviews with my amazing co-host, Kaylin Allen, and icons in the entertainment industry that you might have missed this season. Find out what inspired Andy Cohen to create The Real Housewives, or what Rosie O'Donnell's talk show experience was like after coming out. Raised by Ricky is available wherever you get your podcasts.
Lemonada.
When did I learn that ADHD was my superpower? Great question. I would love to tell you. When I was a student in grade school, I was not the student that you wanted in your class. I can assure you, there were many audible sighs of preemptive frustration that came out of my soon-to-be teachers' mouths. It's not that I didn't want to pay attention to the content or that I didn't respect the teachers who were teaching the content. It's just that I couldn't will myself to sit still long enough to learn what was being taught. It was incredibly frustrating. I was the kid that was looking around the room instead of straight ahead because I was just trying to learn how to learn. And it was like the students around me just seemed to sit there effortlessly, like statues. And then there's me, leaving trails of ripped paper at my feet under the desk and sweating from all of the micro movements I'm performing to try and avoid distracting those around me and getting sent out of the room again. It's like, if I could just move, I could listen, but no one listened long enough to let me move. So I failed tests, and I was marked well below my reading comprehension level. I was given extra work over the summers to try and catch up between school years, so I wasn't held back. On paper, it wasn't looking so good. And then junior high rolls around. I moved cities, which means I moved school districts. And the district that my new zip code belongs to happened to put me among some of the most academically gifted students I had ever met. Looking back, it probably wasn't an accident and more of like an intentional decision that my mom made to try and help. And what should have felt like a huge gift to many people felt like a sick joke to me, honestly. I dreaded showing up to my new school and the people that I would inevitably annoy with my fidgeting and paper ripping and constant questions, though I did come in handy when it came time for teachers to grade on a bell curve. So there's that. I had no clue how much my life would change at this new school. One of the very first teachers I ever met, we're going to call him Mr. M, he didn't seem to be annoyed by my hyperactivity. He wasn't confused why I was confused. He didn't make me feel like I was a problem that needed to be solved. He even allowed me to rip up paper underneath my desk just so long as I cleaned it up before I left. And for the first time, I wasn't embarrassed at the way that I learned. I found that the more space I was allowed to take up in a classroom, the easier I absorbed the information that was being taught to me. Even if it looked to him like I wasn't paying attention, he chose to trust me that I was. A few weeks into the semester, while I was trying to pay attention in class, I accidentally ripped up my reading log, which you only get one of, by the way, and you have to turn it in at the end of the semester for a grade. And whatever you don't fill out, sorry, you don't get credit. But the following day, I will never forget, I walked into Mr. M's class and I found a ream of printer paper on my desk. Brand new, still in the packaging. I looked up at Mr. M and he said under his breath so that I wasn't embarrassed, "Let's try to avoid ripping up any more homework." From that moment onward, I have never apologized for learning new information differently than other people. I might not rip up as much paper as I used to, though I definitely have like a deck of playing cards that I destroy in case of emergency in my desk as we speak. I've learned to make everything that I used to be embarrassed about work for me now, like my unintentional multitasking and my ability to hyperfixate almost to the detriment of everything else that I'm working on. Those are all things that I now use to my advantage. And though this isn't as fun funny as it is true, I just couldn't leave this story about Mr. M untold during this specific episode because he deserves to hear how his kindness and his understanding changed the way that I saw myself for the rest of my life. He made me feel like ADHD was my superpower. Thank you. Okay, actually, can you just pretend that you're listening to a fully complete theme song here? I got really in my head, and I tried to make it perfect, and I couldn't. So this is going to be the theme song right here. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Funny 'Cause It's True. I'm Elyse Myers. This week, I'm talking to the brilliant comedian and actress Atsuko Okatsuka. She's one of Variety's top 10 comics to watch this year. She's been featured on Jimmy Kimmel Live, The Late Late Night Show with James Corden, and she's about to release her first comedy special on HBO Max in December titled The Intruder. So 2 things that are funny because they're true. Number one of Atsuko's best friends is her grandmother. And I just firmly believe in the bottom of my heart that her grandmother is a complete badass. And speaking of her grandmother, number 2. So Atsuko is best known for her comedy, like you know, but she actually went viral for creating a TikTok trend called the Drop Challenge, which involves her and her grandmother dropping it like it's hot out of nowhere to Beyonce's Partition. Do you understand why I think her grandmother is a badass? First of all, hi, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Just to kind of get into it a little bit, I just wanted to know, little icebreaker, what is the funniest thing that you've been watching or have watched recently?
The funniest thing that I've watched recently, gosh, off the top of my head. Oh, you know what? Yesterday I was with my mom and grandma, and my grandma has been doing this thing where she's been cutting out people from old photographs that I'm in. So, okay. Growing up, I didn't have the best luck finding friends, let alone dating,
Sure.
And so she's been going into photos of me and somebody I dated or somebody I went to prom with or homecoming with, and she's been cutting them out of pictures. And so that was pretty funny when I discovered she was still doing that yesterday.
I thought you were going to say a Netflix special, and you're I've been watching my grandmother cut people.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
She feels like a TV show.
Most grandmas do. Okay, pause. In no way did I expect her to say anything about her personal life. I thought she was going to say a Hulu show, not my grandma cutting up old photos. That was perfect. Has she done that ever since you parted with somebody and then they weren't a part of your life anymore and then she'd cut them out immediately? Or does she batch cut these out?
It's been since I've been with my husband.
Okay.
Where anytime she finds a photo and she's like, oh, who's that? Oh, no, not around this person's shoulder. Your arm shouldn't be around anybody's shoulder. But I don't some weird purity. I don't know what she is. You know what I mean?
It's so sweet, though. It's protecting you and your relationship. It's just honestly so sweet.
She's ruining pictures.
Okay, that's true.
And memories.
But with a good intention.
For sure.
Actually, the first way that I found you, ironically, was the Drop Challenge. Mm-hmm. And I know that it's so funny that you went viral for that, with your grandma, right?
Right.
What was that like going viral for something that is just so not what you would normally want to go viral for because you're a comedian?
Sure, yeah.
What did that feel like?
I feel at first you're oh, it's so silly, but that's usually... For me, the viral things for me are the things that are so simple and just me having fun or some kind of unfortunate event like an earthquake hitting while I'm on stage. And
that's right. Okay, just for reference, in 2019, Atsuko hopped up on stage in Pasadena, started dancing, and then a 7.1 magnitude earthquake hit, all at the same time.
Oh, whoa, what's going on? Hey, Pasadena, hi. Can't she dance? Okay, all right. What's happening? Oh, shit. I thought I was making that happen. I went to art school.
That was filmed, and that went viral. And it's like, oh, I almost had to die. And, I've been doing it for a while. I'm pretty good, at stand-up. But apparently during an earthquake, my stand-up is out of this world, And so...
I think it's because the way that you handled it, I would have just been like, bye.
Right.
You just maintained it. That's skill, honestly.
I mean, I was like, oh, an earthquake? What is it? 7.1 magnitude? Oh, you have no idea, bitch. I lived in a garage and hiding for 7 years and my mom has schizophrenia. Okay? This is nothing.
I've been training for this my whole life.
Are you kidding me? Trying to make people laugh through an earthquake? I've been trying to make my family is a whole group of people who don't laugh. Okay? I grew up within non-laughers. All right? Okay? Lived in a garage, had no friends, eating disorders, the whole shebang. Okay? Bring up the magnitude. No big deal. So drop challenge, yes, things like that. It's just videos of me and grandma just trying to run away from our traumas. Really, is what these fun dance videos are all about.
Oh, my face hurts. That runner of you with the earthquake. That is my whole life. I can't, you explaining that you're trying to make people laugh and oh my gosh, yeah, that's my whole life right there.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm super curious, how did you actually get into comedy and acting? Was that the same time or were they separate?
Yeah. Well, so stand-up I started 12 years ago, right after I dropped out of undergrad and went through my first ever breakup. Oh. And so it's kind of like when you feel like, I have nothing left to lose. I want to try the thing I've always wanted to try. So, yeah, I was feeling like a failure, I couldn't even finish UC Riverside. No offense to UC Riverside, but it is where you go. It is where all the other UC rejects go.
What were you studying when you dropped out?
Psychology.
Oh, I love that for you. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I like people and, stand-up comedy. Comedy is, a service industry. I see it as a service industry and it's still... I think psychology still applies. It's about, I think you have to like people for comedy. That's just my school of thought. Not that I've started such a thing. But, some people do stand up not for people. It's about serving themselves. And that's fine too. But, I've always performed and loved performing. So I took a class. I found one online on Craigslist. Because at the time I didn't know, 12 years ago, going to open mics alone as a woman, that is how you went missing. So, I didn't know if that's the way I wanted to start. Oh, it's good to know your... Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, totally. Back then I was extra, lived with my head in the clouds. So I would leave my purse and accidentally stay too long and be like, oh, how am I the only person left in this open mic with this scary man?
Oh, no.
That would be me. So I took a stand-up class where it was all women. And it was more of a controlled environment where we could, work on our craft without these other outside factors.
When you said that you have to like people to be good at stand-up, what do you mean by that?
I think it's again, it's a service industry and humanities industry. For me, I come out of it wanting to spread joy and sharing my experiences, that the things that make me giggle that I want to share with you, and then in turn you giggling about it too, and seeing your own self in it. That's my goal. And so I'm trying to have a good time so that you can have a good time and then we can all have a good time together. That's how I approach it.
I love that Atsuko said, in order to be funny in comedy, you kind of have to like people. To me, it's kind of the idea that you're not going to put one person down to make another person laugh, because at the end of the day, that's just not funny. And so you make it something that everybody can laugh at. At least that's my approach. So what's your approach with acting? Because I know that you've been in a couple films.
Yeah, acting is tough. It's a interesting past for me because I got into it with I was dating this guy who is way older than me, and he was an independent film director. And it was sort of a toxic relationship where I got into acting because he was sort of using me as his muse, For example, one of the roles that he had me play was I literally didn't really talk. at all. It was a lot of close-ups on my face. I was like hooking up with men, so there were like sex scenes, and that's sort of my entrance to acting. So it didn't help nourish my acting talents, because it was a lot of like, okay, look this way, now you're going to show skin, and it was like that.
So now you've kind of like gotten to have control over your own acting career. It sounds like before you really didn't, and now you're kind of reclaiming that with the projects that you want to be doing, right?
Yeah, but it's definitely like a healing process where I'm doing stand-up way more,
Yeah.
because stand-up is so like you're in control. You do the writing, you do the performing, you do the directing of your performance.
Yeah.
The projects that I am sort of bringing to limelight, like my HBO stand-up special and stuff, it's stuff that I had control doing,
Yeah.
Acting is hard for me to take control of myself still. Probably because of the past. I never even thought of it that way until I just talked to you about it, actually.
Welcome to therapy.
No, I'm sorry. And
don't be sorry. I love that.
If you're listening out there, Elyse does have a very minimal background with like one plant and like a nice light source coming out from It peeks out of your shoulders, so it kind of makes you look angelic. And a white t-shirt, so you do like look like a therapist, or I just woke up in heaven.
Honestly, either way, it's great. We're going to take a break, but stick around and hear why Atsuko believes not being competitive is actually a superpower. People like to ask me about my strategies and goals for myself when it comes to my own mental health. Fun fact, I like to actually walk while I work. I've found that when my body is in motion, my brain stays focused. So I built myself a treadmill desk a few years ago, and I've used it every day since. We're used to managing and figuring things out on our own, including our own mental health. But what happens when our tools, whether it's meditation, doing deep dives on TikTok, or your homemade treadmill desk, what if they're not enough? Hers offers access to mental health care that can support you in your day-to-day. At forhers.com, you can get access to healthcare providers who are available for your mental health and can prescribe trusted medications to treat anxiety and depression if they're right for you. And it's all 100% online. If prescribed, you can get your first month of treatment for only $25 and afterwards for $85 a month, or $49 a month with a 3-month subscription. Head to forhers.com/Elyse to start a free assessment today. That's forhers.com/ELYSE. Hers makes it so simple. For example, there is no insurance required. It doesn't really get simpler than that. Get started today with a free assessment at forhers.com/Elyse. That's forhers.com/ELYSE. Offer is only available if prescribed. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. Additional restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Winter is here, and the cold air can be brutal on your skin. That's why Sol de Janeiro is excited to tell you about Brazilian Boom Boom Cream, which is their moisturizing MVP. It can help you protect your skin from getting dry even on the coldest of days. Their Brazilian Boom Boom Cream has so many incredible ingredients that are also sustainably sourced, vegan, and cruelty-free. This includes the fast-absorbing cupuaçu butter, which delivers deep hydration and essential fatty acids, leaving your skin feeling silky soft, and antioxidant-packed ingredients like acai oil to help keep skin vibrant. This cream is great for whole-body skincare and can be used as part of your daily routine. Sol de Janeiro is offering our listeners 10% off on their first order on Sol de Janeiro, spelled SOLDEJANEIRO.com, and free shipping with the code Elyse. That's ELYSE to try Brazilian Boom Boom Cream for yourself with 10% off and free shipping. You did mention your HBO special, and I wanted to hear a little bit about it. First of all, is this scary for you? Second of all, is it exciting? I just kind of want to know everything about it.
Yeah, I'm very excited. The line between something you're scared of and what you're excited about is very, very, very fine.
Yes.
It's a very thin line. But yeah, I'm very excited about the special. And of course, there's fear in it too. what will people think? But, I know my intentions with it, and I've worked really hard at it, and a good track record, it makes people laugh. So yeah, I'm very excited to share it with a bigger audience.
I know that you're special. I've heard a little bit. It's like about how, things that made you different as a kid, you kind of realized they were like your superpower. When I read that, I really connected with it. And I just kind of wanted to hear a little bit of like, what were some of the things that made you different, and how have you kind of used those now in your adult life as your like superpower?
Yeah, I think something is like, I think maybe the way I talk is one, and whether that be a mix of, me being an immigrant and also Southern California. I don't use correct English like sentence structures. I will make up words sometimes. I think someone was making fun of Herschel Walker for saying, I am work in police force or something like that. And they were laughing about it. And I was like, wait, that's how I talk. And I do talk like that. But now, I literally, I make a living, out of using these words, out of talking just with my mouth. So it's like, it's like owning that, and hopefully for other people who are like, I don't speak correctly, whether it's for various reasons, there's learning disabilities, and this isn't your first language. Maybe there wasn't means to go take SAT classes, whatever. Who the hell cares how you spell things or how you say things? It adds your own personality and style. As long as people know what you're saying, it adds flair. And that's like one example of like owning something that, as a kid, I was more quiet because I was like, ooh, I'm going to say some English words wrong. Or, like, for example, right now, I just said English words wrong. There's a part of me, there's like a part of me from my past who goes, no, it's incorrectly.
Even though it's funny because like a lot of people probably don't use correct grammar. Like I've not used grammar correctly in this entire conversation, but it's interesting that you are self-conscious of it because maybe English wasn't like the first language that you spoke.
Right. Because you wanted to fit in, because there would be kids that laugh at you, or teacher who's like, stay after his class, you got to work on this,
Yeah.
And just make you feel like, oh, I'm really messing up.
It's funny. I was going to ask if you've ever read the book Outliers, or I think there's another book called David and Goliath, but
yeah,
it's
Malcolm Gladwell.
You have?
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I was given those books, actually by my husband now, but when we were dating, he gave me those books because, I have really bad dyslexia and like very bad ADHD. And both of those in combination made me a terrible student in school, to the point where like I failed a lot of classes going throughout my life. And, it always made me feel really dumb. And I knew that I just wasn't able to learn the way that everybody else was learning, but it didn't mean that I couldn't retain the information if I could just have the opportunity to learn it the way that it would work for me. And he gave me these books, and it just like for the first time made me realize like the things that we struggle with, can sometimes we have to work so hard at them that we can become better at them than the average person, because we have to focus so much on it that we almost excel in it in a way that we didn't mean to,
100%.
So for you with like, your job is speaking, like something that you are self-conscious of, you are literally paying your bills with this. Like that is so crazy, that it's something that you could be afraid of overcoming, but actually it's making you who you are, and it's making you a very successful person. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think, but it's that self-awareness is good, and that support is really necessary, or else you could continue living in that shame. You need somebody, a teacher or a supportive husband or somebody to be like, hey, here's a resource, or hey, there's other people like you, and
yeah.
And so it's really important. My husband is the same. He has dyslexia and ADHD. But he didn't know until his late 20s.
It's a long time to go not knowing.
Yeah, where that whole time you feel like, oh my God, I'm a freak, and I'm like in my late 20s now, and I guess I'm just dumb, and not even having, back in the day, like Twitter communities and stuff like that, online communities, TikTok, people talking about it. He didn't have that.
Was your husband the person that was like your support person, or who was that person for you when you were growing up?
I think I found a community in comedy for sure. It took a long time still though, because it's still scary to be like, hey, it's me. This is how I talk, and this is how I find funny things funny.
Yeah.
Every new situation, every new community and group you approach, it's like high school all over again, you know?
Especially like with the comedy space too. I feel like you would want to make friends with people. Did you ever feel like they were your competition? I mean, you're like going and learning all the same things, but then you're going to go into the same jobs.
Yeah, again, it's that high school mentality, except in high school, it was like colleges or something, right? Like, they only accept so many students to this school, you know? So I'm going to be the one that gets in, you know? I'm the one of this particular race, blah, blah, blah. Because it's kind of the same for comedy, too, in the industry, right? Or it's like, no, there can only be one that looks like me. You know what I mean? And yeah, so it is exactly like that. And I'm like, oh, God damn it. I didn't do well in high school positioning myself. Why would I do well now? You know?
I'm the same. I'm not competitive. If like you want the job, it's yours. Take it. I didn't even want it. I don't even know why I'm here. I didn't want it. It's yours.
That's why we're our own makers. I think, you know, people who really excel in like sort of, you know, creating a platform for yourself and people coming to you. And we had to create our own paths, you know, especially if we're more passive or not competitive, or the front door didn't always, you know, wasn't open to people like us, and still isn't necessarily, you know, because, I mean, you know, Chris Pratt's got to work, so, you know, and, or whatever. It's like, we're not competitive people, which means maybe we might get stepped on or stepped over easily. Stepped on. See?
Stepped on, over, all of it. It's all the same.
No, I know. Where sometimes I'm like, gosh, I said that. And then it just sounds more like a kink. Yes, we get stepped over easily. That's why we went to social media. That's why we talked directly to our audience, you know, and we were able to thrive that way still, you know?
Oh, yeah. What are some other areas in your life that you've kind of seen, you know, things that you might have been self-conscious of as a kid that you're like, this is actually why I do that?
And my mother, you know, because growing up and still today, my mom has paranoid schizophrenia and she has epilepsy as well. So she has seizures and it makes her feel like a freak. And in turn, I think, you know, I felt that way too, because it's like, well, this is our family. This is our Avengers, you know, me, my mom, and my grandma living in a garage. All those things sort of, because we were undocumented and we just didn't have the means. We were living with my uncle and sort of laying low in the garage. So all those things sort of made me feel like, okay, I'm an outlier. Our family is an outlier. But, you know, something I talk about in the special, and I won't like super give it away, but, you know, my mom's schizophrenia and all the things that people fear about her because of the stigmas of mental health, those are actually her superpowers too. My husband's mom also has schizophrenia. It's just like a freak coincidence. It's not like we went to a website and found each other that way. Yourmomtoo.com.
Just as like a support group that you're meeting in, you're like, oh my gosh, we fell in love. Time for a break. When we return, Atsuko tells the story of getting kicked out of church choir. I don't really see myself as a lots of hair products kind of person, but I am learning on my own about my natural curly hair, and that means trying a lot of things. So how happy was I when I found a product that would help me actually embrace my hair's natural texture? Very happy. I was introduced to the JVN hair care line by Jonathan Van Ness, and it works for all hair types, including mine. And I just fell in love with the brand immediately, like won't stop talking about it to friends and family, despite their repeated assurances that they get it. Level of falling in love. JVN hair care is silicone-free and powered by this unique, sustainable ingredient, hemisqualane. That's what gives your hair that healthier frizz-free shine that we love. And for those of us with curly hair, the air dry cream is a must-have. It smells incredible, and it's made my new hair care routine with my natural curls so simple. Thank you, JVN. We love you. If you want to try JVN's air dry cream for yourself, and trust me, you definitely do, head to jvnhair.com and use code Elyse20 for 20% off air dry cream and the entire JVN hair collection. That's jvnhair.com and code Elyse20.
In 2022, we partnered with Penguin Random House to establish the Lemonada Book Club, uniting lovers of storytelling, from books to podcasts, and we have loved recommending reads that reflect the beauty and challenge of the human experience. And there's nothing more human than emotion. And this past year was full of emotions. Penguin Random House's The Year in Books explores 2022's big moods and offers the perfect books to go with them. Maybe you've been feeling blasé bliss, floating along in a state of numbness, which calls for an imaginative book to snap you out of it. Or perhaps you were channeling defiant joy, where nothing could dull your shine, and want a book filled with inspiration to keep you going and glowing. However you've been feeling, they've got a book for that. Check out The Year in Books at penguinrandomhouse.com/yearinbooks, and stay connected to our growing community of story lovers at www.lemonadabookclub.com.
So I want to pivot a little bit. The drop challenge was so funny because, first of all, your knees must be just like incredibly strong.
Thank you so much.
I've read that you love to dance, and obviously it's like all over your social with your grandma. Does that play a part in your stand-up at all?
I do love to dance, but when I'm doing stand-up, I think there's aspects of the dance training that I use, like the way I stand, putting energy from my toes up, those are weird just things, because I also have like poor circulation. So it's just like the way I stand to make sure I can do my whole hour of stand-up every time. I do vocal warm-ups before a stage, and people are like, but you're not a singer. I'm like, I know, Uncle Paul, I know. I know I'm not a singer, okay? People love reminding me I'm not a singer, and I know I'm not. Sorry, that's a different thing I'm going through. I was in the choir with my uncle. He's the choir director, and I was never asked back, notoriously.
Okay. So was this your uncle's choir, like at church?
Yes.
And you don't sing in it anymore?
I don't go to church anymore.
Okay.
But in the 7th grade when this happened, it was, I was an alto, is what I was told.
Yeah.
No, it's just, that's the uncle that let us stay in his garage. And so we were going to church with him. And, I was like, I like songs. I want to sing.
Yeah.
I want a community. He's like, okay, join the adult choir. You'll be the youngest one. And then we like practiced for a long time because it's a cantata,
Okay, so FYI, a cantata is like a medium length piece of music, and it's usually for like voices with instrumental accompaniment, typically like solos, a chorus, and then an orchestra.
And so, and learning it as an alto, like not really having any singing experience in the past, it's like I don't get to sing the melody. So I did a lot of studying. And in my head, I was like, crushed it. Like I really got this, and then, but apparently like during the practices and even in the performance, you could really hear me off key because I was loud. I was loud. I was a loud alto. You don't want to be a loud alto, but I was always off in the harmony. And people talked. Church talks. People talk. And I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing you could do. Like, church choir is a volunteer service. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know you could get, like, fired for doing free work. Are we not singing for the church? You know what I mean? Like, for God or whatever?
They're like, you know what? Some sounds are just not holy, and you can just take that voice and go. Like, please don't bring that here.
I'm like, this is a volunteer gig, y'all. They're like, no, it's just better for the community, I think, and I was like, fine. Yeah. That's fine.
With the alto thing, I'm an alto singer. I'm like either a tenor two or an alto. Mm-hmm. So I'm very low voice, but then I played the viola. So I play alto clef, and I literally never have the melody. And what's funny about that is you have to learn the melody and learn the counter. Mm-hmm. So you're out there just like lifting everyone else around you, and nobody even ever hears you if you do your job right. And then it's just very, very funny because I feel like genuinely, and tell me if you feel this too, like when you are in this like comedy space, I feel like I was conditioned to be the support, like to be the supportive role because of how long I did that in music, that it's almost bizarre now to be like the melody on stage or like in these videos as like the leading person. And I'm wondering for you, even with like your family, the support of your family, the support in music, like that person that was the support role, you are the star now. Like, Do you feel like that's hard for you to kind of get in the front and not be the person people step over? How has that been accepting these things now that are big deals?
Yeah, it is like up and down, and you do need a support system or a supportive person. For me, it is my husband who has to constantly remind me, no, you deserve to be here. Like you need someone to let you know that it's okay to take up the space, like because other people take up space all the time. And I think it's interesting that you say that, that you also, as some like the supportive alto to then being in the limelight, the main melody. Yeah. You're still doing that supportive thing for other people, I think, by hosting a podcast. Because on a podcast, you're giving other people the platform, you're supporting other people. And so I still see that in you. I think that's really cool, that because it's not, you can just have a podcast where you just talk. I would listen to that.
It brings it back to what you said, like to be good at comedy, you have to like people, you have to love people, you want to have to add value to people. And I personally find that that's like when I do comedy, my 3 goals are to make people feel seen, loved, and like they belong. And that might not always feel deep or heavy. It might not be like this like encouraging word I give someone. It could just be a really simple laugh, and they feel like they're lighter, that they feel like they belong to a community that also finds that funny. And so I very much resonate with that, what you said earlier. And also thank you for your encouragement on my podcast.
No, of course. I'm like, oh, girl, you're still being an alto in some ways. And
I think we have to be. I think that's what makes us good at our job is we want to bring other people along with us.
For sure.
Thank you seriously so much for talking to me today. This was a really, really cool conversation, and I'm so glad I got to meet you.
Me too. I feel the same way. Thank you so much for having me, Elyse.
Of course. That was such a cool conversation. I felt like Atsuko and I connected really well, really quickly, which is incredible because we're so similar, but we've had very different upbringings up until this point in our life. When Atsuko talked about her support system mainly being in her husband, I got to thinking about how it's kind of been confusing in this new job that I'm in. I never really know what kind of community to build around myself because I am not a conventional stand-up comedian and performer. And so I never know, like, should I be drawing from comedic support? Should I be drawing from writers? Should I have people that just know me around me? Should I mainly just use my husband as a support system? Like, it's sometimes just very confusing to know what the right answer is when I'm thinking about making sure that I have the right people around me to support me in all of this. And I think that above any title that somebody can have, I think that the value system kind of has to be the same. Like sitting across from Atsuko and talking to her about how she thinks that the most important thing to be a good comedian is to like people. Like that's a huge fundamental, like core belief that she carries around with her in her field. And I think that the more you can connect with people in that way, the easier it will be to find support in them. Anyways, I loved my conversation with Atsuko. I found it very therapeutic for myself, and I cannot wait to connect with her offline because I think that she is just a phenomenal human being, and I want to know way more about her. Okay, that's it for my conversation with Atsuko. Make sure to check out her HBO Max special, The Intruder, coming out December 10th. If you like this episode, send it to a friend, or maybe just give it a rating and review. I don't know. It just helps people find it. Also, it's kind of nice. We also have premium content on Apple Podcasts, so you can listen to more Funny 'Cause It's True there. Thanks. See you next week. Bye. There's more Funny 'Cause It's True with Lemonada Premium. You'll get access to all of Lemonada's premium content, including My 5 Questions with Jonathan Van Ness, which is out now. Subscribe now in Apple Podcasts right where you're listening to this show. Funny 'Cause It's True is a Lemonada Media and Powder Keg production. The show is produced by Claire Jones, Zoe Dennis, Nancy Rosenbaum, and Linnea Tony. Our associate producer is Tiffany Bowie. Rachel Neal is our Senior Director of New Content, and our VP of Weekly Production is Steve Nelson. Executive producers are Stephanie Whittles-Wax, Jessica Cordova-Kramer, Paul Feig, Laura Fisher, Kesla Childers, and me, Elyse Myers. This show is mixed by Johnny Vince Evans, additional help from Noah Smith and Ivan Krayev. Our theme song music was written by me and scored by Xander Singh. Follow Funny 'Cause It's True wherever you get your podcasts, or listen ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership.
Hey, Lemonada listeners, we want to hear from you. You know we love our sponsors for a ton of reasons, but one of the main ones is that they help us keep the lights on. And there's a really easy way that you can help us draw new advertisers and hear ads for things you're most interested in. Filling out our quick anonymous survey at lemonadamedia.com/survey. By just answering a few questions, you can help us find new brands to connect with and also share feedback about show content you'd like to see across the network. And to sweeten the deal, once you've completed the survey, you can enter for a chance to win a $100 Visa gift card. I promise the survey is short and sweet and will help us play ads you don't want to skip and also keep bringing you content you love. Just go to lemonadamedia.com/survey.
BFFs Kulap Vilaysack and Zujin Pak bring heartfelt, hilarious, and sometimes subversive conversations about consuming and consumers to add to cart. This podcast explores what they and we buy and buy into. Who knew a confession about buying a fast fashion chili pepper swimsuit could segue into a conversation about body positivity? Kulap and Zujin will make you laugh, cry, and take a closer look at what you do and don't buy. Listen to Add to Cart wherever you find your podcasts. Casts.